Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to JJ's PC Built. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what's going to be going on today. What we're going to be doing is this. We're going to be testing out this Peltier module, so that way we can see how cool and how warm it's going to actually get. So, if this is your first time here, please subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Built. And my veteran subscribers, as always, much love to you for all that you do, watching videos from beginning to end, and letting everybody know to come on down and join our little community here. So we're going to go ahead and just get right into it, and we're going to dive right down, and we're going to see what's going on. But first, make sure this right here is going to be, this is the overview. This is going to be to where we're going to be testing the plate. Make sure you have a power cord. Make sure you have your power supply ready. Make sure you got the Peltier module. Make sure you got a couple heat sinks ready. And that way you can jump right into it and, just build it and have it all set. So that's pretty much what we did. We pretty much have it all set. So we're going to go ahead and go down and look at the work area and show you what we got cooking. Okay, so now I've already got the Peltier plate already set together. All right. I got the plate in between here. You probably can't see it well, but we'll turn this around a little bit. You can see that we got the power cords right here. And we got the plate in between. We have it strapped with some Velcro strapping. But make sure that you line up the plate very carefully so that way, it's not moving around. And, it'll be able to get a good cooling source. I used a little plate right here for the cold side, but I'm using this side here, the big side, which has two radiators, and it's got 3 fans. So make sure you got all that together before you get started, and we'll set it right here. And also too, make sure you got one thing right here. An infrared thermometer. I picked one up within the same day. It didn't cost that much. So this is just something I'm going to unbox it because I haven't unboxed it yet. So I wanted to have y'all here with me. I've already unboxed the Peltier modules with y'all on the first video. So no sense in me going that far and doing that again. But what we're going to do is we're going to unbox this. If I can get my fingers in there somewhere, We'll go ahead and, since we got scissors on the side, we'll go ahead and just dive right onto it. So, okay. Now we busted the seal. And it's going to come with new batteries. It's going to come in with a booklet, a QR, where you need to go if you want to set, go all that way. But what we're doing today, we're just using it for, seeing the cold and the heat. It's supposed to be infrared. So basically it's something you really can, afford. It doesn't cost that much money for one of these. If it reads out good, then you got something really good. So, something inexpensive, affordable. And also, too, remember, something like this you can use for your personal. Basically, if you get a cold or something, it sounds crazy, but that's pretty much what this is for. But Also, too, it's least expensive and you don't have to run out and spend $1 million just to do this. So I figure oh, my bad. I figure I'd try something different. Somebody recommended me try this first, and then we hook up the batteries, plug it in. It's set in Fahrenheit. Probably can't see the screen really well, but that's what it's given. So we'll test it with my hand. And you can see that it gives my body temperature. We'll get it in there. Hopefully you can see that. It says 98.3. That's my temp. So that's pretty good. That is pretty good. So now we got something for the temperature of the plates. We can see the hot and cold side. Let's just dive right in and get this connected. I've already got the power supply that I showed you the last time. It's already got the connector to connect the power switch right there. So we don't need to do anything there. Remember, I told you the color codes are the black is ground, the red is 5 volt, and the white is 12 volt. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving. We're going to have to use both sides. So what we're going to do is we'll connect the fan. We'll connect it on a separate ground. And that way we won't have any issues trying to get through this test. So I'm kind of wiring it manually for right now. This is just testing it to see how cold it's going to get. So that's the whole purpose of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to see how cold it's going to get with, let's say, the 5 volt section. Okay, we're going to see how cold it's going to get with the 5 volts first. This way we can let it warm back up really quick, and then we can test it for the 12 volt section. It's not going to be a long testing. This is just a testing to make sure that the module is working like it's supposed to. And if it is, then we're not going to have an issue. So we got the fan wired in. Now it's time to get the module wired in. So we're going to make sure that, strip the wire back a little bit. And we'll tie the ground in. The black will be the ground side. And also, too, we will tie this to the red to the hot side. Over here, that ties up with the fan. So this way, when I plug it in, it'll automatically turn on. Now, there's something good about this power supply is the fact of this power supply is an older power supply. They come with a surge breaker, a surge protector, so that way in case you get something that pops it, it's going to pop the surge protector and the power supply. So that way it doesn't harm the power supply. So you're always going to have that positive note in your mind. So now we got everything connected. Now we're going to let it run for approximately 5 minutes starting now. So it's 10:25 a.m. right now. And I know it's going to take some time to get this on through YouTube. Okay, so we're going to let this approximately run 5 minutes. And I'm going to let you know why. Is because the fact of that I want to see in 5 minutes time how cold it actually will get. So this will give me an understanding of the low side that I want to run this at and the high side I want to run this at. Remember, if I'm going to use this in a car with the alternator running is going to give 14.4 volts. Okay, now I'm not sure this plate can handle 14.4 volts, and I'm not willing to risk that. So in time, I'm going to order from Amazon a power regulator, a 12 volt regulator that you can variable it down from 12 volt to 5 volts, and hopefully it'll variable down to 3 volts. We'll see what we can find, but when that time comes and we order the rest of the parts for this after, getting everything straight, then, we'll see if it's going to be worthy enough to go into the next test, which will be building this into a box with a little bit bigger fans for better cooling, and to see if it actually is going to bring down the temperature in the vehicle, sitting at between, let's say, 115 and 125 degrees. So remember, your CPU is sitting at an idle between, let's say, 95 to 100 degrees, just on an example, 95 to 100 degrees, all the way up to about 165, 170. So if you think about it, and you're trying to do this to, test your CPU and, be able to get better results without having condensation and everything else. Because do remember, it depends on your atmospheric conditions. If you keep your house, we keep this place here at about 78 degrees. 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so that means if it gets down to 65, 66, it should be adequate for the cooling without condensation. Now, I'm thinking that anything that's below 60 degrees in a 78 degree fashion, there's going to be some condensation. So, but if my idea is to bring it down to 52, 52 should be coming off of this block. Well, actually, it should be less than that. It should be down to like 36 coming off of this block. So right now it's 1028. It's almost 1029. So then that means this will be running for 5 minutes. The whole idea for 5 minutes is to see in 5 minutes time, with being, as big as room as this is, to see if it actually cools down below what the ambient temperature in this room is, and that's at 78 degrees. Now, we got 1 minute left, and we're going to test, make sure we get this test correctly. And it's 13 minutes into the video. And like I told you, it's not going to be a long video. We're going to hurry this 5 minute test through, and then we're going to go another 5 minutes. Another 5 minutes testing this at 12 volts to see if it actually is going to cool off at 12 volts. Now, there is thermal paste in between this block and the Peltier module, and this block in the middle of the Peltier module. So that both sides have thermal paste that's in between the two. You cannot run these modules directly onto the heat sink. You cannot. You have to have some kind of thermal paste in between the two. This way you don't fry the Peltier module. So now it's 10:30. Okay, so this right now, this plate is about 56 degrees. I can tell you that because I can feel it. And that's at 5 volts at 5 minutes. So the hot side, on the other hand, let's see what the hot side is. Okay, so basically I'm going to have to get another thermometer because this one obviously is not working like I wanted it to. It's actually you got to have some kind of skin or something. It doesn't want to register. So, but I'll tell you what, I will pick another one up. Ooh. But I can tell you the block is still sitting at ambient temperature. Okay. Now the cold side's definitely cold. Okay. Definitely cold. I don't think I need to go to the 12 volt side. I think I've already made my decision on the 5 volt side because it's sitting at a cold temperature. I mean, it's like if you grab a can of soda, and usually those sit between 22 and 38 degrees. Usually. But putting my hand on it feels like I'm touching a can of soda. So that's telling me where the temperature is right about. On a slow average, I can say it's at a really good cold temperature. And I mean, remember with these Peltier modules, you can do many things with. Okay, let's go up to the main screen and I'll give you my conclusion to this. Oh, all right. Since I got that out of the way, I'm going to unplug this thing. Okay, my conclusion to this. Now, by hooking it up the way I had it, is it going to be worthy of making like a mini portable AC? Well, yeah, it does give its value, okay? Especially when you're thinking that, for the fact of that when you're trying to imitate something that's in a car that's 22,000 BTUs, okay? You're trying to imitate 22,000 BTUs off of one cold plate, okay? Now, for the size it is, this is only giving at least maybe 3 or 4 BTUs. So basically, it's cold. But the design would be more or less like for a refrigeration box. If you're going to do that, then it would be like a thermal insulated cooler, and getting this cool air to come down and blow on, like, let's say, ice. And then, you put a port on the outside, then basically you can utilize the coldness of that ice to inject a cold atmosphere into a vehicle. If you wanted to really do this, then you could inject this cold plate and put this cold plate right underneath the ice at 5 volts. And this bottom side's running at ambient temperature. So I really think you could, build yourself a mini AC for your car. You putting like these Peltier modules and then putting it on a cold plate. And then on top of the cold plate, you keep like your ice, and it'll keep the ice frozen. I think 4 of these will keep the ice frozen, and then having a fan mixture going through the other way, from one side, fan blowing down inside of a cooler. You cut a hole, you put a fan there, blowing in, and then interjecting it and a port side that allows the air to come out. With the ice in there and the plates hooked up, I think success would be that you can bring from 2 BTUs, you can bring it up to at least maybe 300 to 400 BTUs. If you got a car that's got a busted AC and, you want to try to make the best, this is, setup like this probably cost you about maybe, if you bought it separately, you probably can make your own setup for less than maybe to say $50 to $60. If you wanted to do it outright, and make sure you got it right 100%, then it'll cost you between $110 and $120 to build a portable AC system that works with ice and gives you twice the amount of cold, and that's something you can stick into the back seat, and make it work for you. So that's up to you. But I tried with this. This is more or less like for, taking your temperature and stuff. I was hoping that I would get a better result on that, but obviously I didn't. So this right here, I'll save it for sick days. We'll save it for the sick days. But for, testing temperature the way I want to test it, I think I can go to Harbor Freight and get one of their thermometers that they use for the automobile, because they go from I think they go from -30 all the way up to like 500 degrees, in Fahrenheit, from -30 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be fair. I would say that would be really fair for me to say that would be good. I've seen them before, so I think that's what I'm going to do is I'll stop at Harbor Freight and I'll pick me up one of the thermometers from there. We will test this again, but, to give you an idea, this is just an idea of where I'm starting with this, of what I want to do. This is basically giving me an idea of how these plates work, how cold it'll get, at what voltage. This is the kicker. At what voltage works the best for this plate? This gets way too hot at 12 volts. Way too hot. The hot side gets way too hot at 12 volts, but the cold side gets really cold at 5 volts. So if you're looking at the summertime, then, 5 volts will work pretty good. So it'd be even better than that is if you took these Peltier plates and put them in series instead of parallel the power to 12 volts. And if you are going 12 volts, then you can parallel it, let's say, to down. Okay, let me take you to the action screen. All right, now I'm going to do this really quick with you. Pull out the calculator. So we got two 12-volt sections. So we got a 12-volt section, and we put it in parallel or series, and that times it by 2. So that gives it 24 volts. Now, that's the good thing. So that means it's 24 volts. That means it breaks it down, that 2 plates, it'll break them down to if I remember right, it'll break it down to 6.2 volts per plate, running it in parallel to 2 plates. So if I remember right, it should break it down to 6.2, 6.3 volts per plate. But if you got something putting out 14.4, then it'll bring it up to 7.1, 7.2 volts per plate. If you run it in parallel, you run it in series. I think that's how it, no, you run it in series, where you connect the negative to the positive, then the negative back to the positive, and then you got two wires that are in between that basically connect a positive and a negative, and then the negative on one plate and the positive on the other plate. You got your two plates that hooks to your 12 volts. So the one that's in between the two plates, that gets shrink wrapped or soldered or however you do it. So that way now you got two 12-volt plates that now divides it down to whatever voltage you got working with this. So if you go to run it in the car, you don't, at that point, you're not going to need a voltage regulator. You're not going to need to regulate the voltage because it still stays within the bracket of 12 volts. So it knocks it down to 7 volts. So that means it's got a 5-volt leeway on both plates. So that means now you're drawing double the amount of energy. So if they're pulling 10 watts, now you're pulling 20 watts. Or 25, somewhere in between there. So between 20 and 25 watts. But you got twice the amount of cooling. You got twice less the heat. So that means it should stay right about ambient temperature where you need it. Because if you keep it rearing hot, too high above ambient temperature, this is never going to work correctly. So you want to keep the hot plate cold as you can, but you want to keep the cold plate as cold as you can as well. So doing that by splitting it off like that, you got a better chance to do it like that. So that's kind of the chance that I'm taking right now, is I'm using the 5-volt section. So I think it's better with 5 volts, my opinion. So that's my thought on this. That's my direction that I'm going to be going with this. I am going to be going in the direction of keeping between 5 and 7 volts on the plates. 2 plates. I'll be able to connect them together, in series. I keep getting it mixed, in series or parallel, but I'm keeping it to where each plate only gets 7.1, 7.2 volts. Maximum. Minimal, each plate will get 6 volts apiece. So you're still dividing 6 by 12, and you get 6. 6 times 2 is 12. So you divide 6 by 12, you get 6. So 6 volts, between 6 and 7.1. You can go from 6 to 7.1 to whatever, Or if you want to hook 4 in series, you can go 48 volts, And then that brings it down to the 48 volts. Now you got 48 volts and you got 4 plates. So you take the 48 volts divided by 4, and you see what you have. You have 12 volts. So that means that each plate will get 12 volts. So that's if you're running solar and you're running 48 volts solar. That would be if you have a 48 volt regulator on your solar that regulates the 48 volts to where it's continuous. Then you can make yourself 4 plates and make yourself a mini AC off of 4 plates. That's your choice. But for what this purpose is, this is going to be the purpose of me eliminating the fact of using a radiator system for an open loop water system for the computer. Now, if I can eliminate the radiator to it, which I know I'm not going to be able to limit the radiator totally because I need something for the hot side for the cold plate, the Peltier plate. You need one for the hot and one for the cold. I could eliminate it by, if I used ingenuity, I could be running the hot plate into another water source, but you're still going to need to radiate the heat somehow. So it'd be best just, if you're going to do that, just have you're going to have a radiator for the hot side, regardless. The cold side, you can get away with it, and you probably can run a cold loop system direct from the processor to the water reservoir. I'll call it a water reservoir. And then it goes through the Peltier cold plate, the two plates together. So then as water flows through, it makes the water cold. The cold plate, the Peltier module makes the water cold as it comes through. It's like taking your hot water heater and making it tankless. Same principle. So instead of you having a radiator, using the water reservoir, the pump reservoir, using that as your holding tank. So basically the water that comes in is warm, and then as it passes through where the Peltier plate is, it cools that water off to a certain degree and flows it directly through and goes into a loop, a round loop. So basically your processor gets cooled off by a cold plate, comes back around as the water comes in, goes through the cold plate for the processor. It goes back out into the reservoir, then coming back around to the reservoir, coming out of the reservoir, going back into the processor cold plate, is you got the Peltier plate in between the two. And now the warm water is going right through where the Peltier plate is and then cooling it off right there. And then running that cold water back up through to the processor cold plate. So basically it's basically fanless at that point for the cold side, and it's basically radiatorless, except for the hot side. The hot side of that plate, you're going to have to put it on a radiator system. Either a water loop radiator system or just basically, a probably small radiator system like this. A thicker radiator like this with the fan that can cool off the hot side. So, or something like this will keep it actually really cold right here. It'll keep it cold. So that's running it at 5 volts. But anyway, that's my testing phase to this this Peltier module. Now, it's going to be a week or two before I decide, to figure out what I'm going to be building for the chassis and everything else. And then once I get all the parts together for that, then I can come up with the next video. And then you can sit with me here and we'll put everything together and, we'll build the structure for this system. So make sure you stick around for that. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. We're trying to get the 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. And I welcome all that did subscribe. Welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Builds. And also to my veteran subscribers, much love for all you do and help support the channel and watching all the videos from beginning to end. And hopefully everybody does watch the videos from beginning to end, because that adds on to the time, gets us closer to the monetization point. So, but as far as the thermometer, I will promise you guys this. Next time when I go to test the cold that's coming out of it, I will have a better thermometer. I thought this one would go down to the temperatures that were expected, but obviously it only deals with body temperature, and I apologize. I thought it was going to work. So it didn't work. At least I tried. You know, it was inexpensive. It was only $12. I tried. So now I'm going to have to go get one from Harbor Freight. That's probably going to be $50 or $60, and we'll go from there. Then we'll do it right like that. So until the next time, in the next video, this is JJ on JJ's PC Builds. We will see you, and hopefully we see you on the next video.